Good morning, everyone. Let's get together for today's business and market programming. We called it Business Morning, live here on Channels Television, Nigeria's news leader. I am Boostin Omafaye. We welcome everyone to the program here and around the world. Let's get back to the business of the unfinished business of the budget 2018. Yes, that was passed yesterday by the National Assembly, 9.12 trillion naira. And that's the headline figure. But we have a few issues to touch there as we begin to see what's in the news. And but you may need to know, everyone out there, that this budget may see very little brickbat between the legislature and the executive, because yesterday the National Assembly says the budget pass was based on consultation and agreement with the executive branch on a number of areas. Earlier we thought that the increase in oil benchmark price from $45 to $50.5 was unilateral on the part of the National Assembly. But yesterday we got clarity, as you may already know, that the executive was briefed on that. The National Assembly says, well, they collaborate with the executive, and it was agreed that the draft presented by President Buhari in November, first week of November last year, should be increased. So don't be surprised by the 508 billion naira extra that you saw in that budget passed by the National Assembly on Wednesday. So let's put that there. There was consultation and there was agreement. So you may see a very speedy passage of the budget and signing it into law by the President and Commander-in-Chief. Meantime, the National Assembly told the executive very gently yesterday that the fuel subsidy was not captured in the budget. Nearly 1 trillion naira is a figure being looked at. So the Senate the joint session asked the executive branch to send a supplementary budget to capture this very controversial subject matter of petrol subsidy. And that's part of what is the unfinished business of the budget. How quickly will the executive push this to the National Assembly to capture this particular controversial subject? And we'll wait to see that. The Assembly also told the executive branch to send a supplementary budget to cover the $1 billion excess crude account money that the executive or the president unilaterally took from the ECA, and says that will be spent on arms purchase to combat insecurity across the country. That is also, we expect to see that also happen. So that's part of what's been said. Meantime, on the subsidy story side, the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, says that we must appreciate now that the crude oil price is close to $80 a barrel, and a lot of Nigerians are expecting to see our excess crude account to be on the rise. He went on to add, but if the money is being used for fuel subsidy, at the end of the day, we will have it difficult to explain why, and that is why it is important that we capture this subsidy into the budget. If there's a supplementary budget, then the 9.12 trillion may be looking at 10 trillion naira as the headline figure for 2018. So the budget 2017 will continue until the new one is signed, and the current year budget 2018 will start from that day on for 12 calendar months. Technically speaking, the 2018 budget will be wrapping up about the time President Buhari's first 4 year in office will be wrapping up technically May 29, 2019. That's if the current one is signed on. Then we'll be putting pen to paper again to prepare for 2019 budget, which is the election year before the end of 2017. And of course, we talked about the security funds, the $1 billion ECA money supplementary budget being asked by the executive to put that and get it captured also into the new budget. So the current budget, 9.12 trillion, is what we have on our hands, but that figure will rise if the petrol subsidy and the arms purchase, $1 billion, is captured and a supplementary budget. Then we'll look at the different figure moving forward. But very important, let's get back to the business of lawmaking for the business of the oil and gas. The National Assembly is done with the Companies and Allied Matters Act that was passed on Tuesday. Now, the Petroleum Industry Bill is the next big ticket for the Assembly to look into. So where is the PIB, the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, the PIGB, that was passed about 2 months ago or so? The presidency says we don't have that document. That's what the senior special assistant to the president on National Assembly matters, Ita Enang, says in a short message yesterday to journalists asking him questions about the state of the PIGB. So everybody wants to know what happens to it. That was been passed by the legislature. Now the presidency says we don't have a copy of that yet. Ita Enang says that PIB says from inquiries, the bill is still undergoing standard operating legislative processes of the National Assembly preparatory to its transmission to the presidency or the executive branch. Meantime, the head of the NNPC, that's the group managing director, Mekanti Baru, says he wants the National Assembly to separate petroleum prospecting licenses from production licenses under the new PIB. As you may already know, if you're in the news, you already know that the National Assembly is holding a public hearings and considering the PIB, the other 3 chapters of the PIB moving forward. Now that the budget has been done, Kama is done with, now it's the PIB that is the big business now before the National Assembly. The NNPC chief told the House Committee on Petroleum Industry Administrative Bill that the licensing split will prevent operators from holding oil acreages in perpetuity. In other words, you get an oil prospecting and production license and you just lock it up in your wardrobe for as many years as possible. So what does the NNPC want? What's the blue ocean that Mekanti Baru actually wants? And that's what you see next. What the State Oil Corporation wants to happen or see happen under the new PIB law is to reduce the present 25 years of which you hold an oil prospecting license, reduce it to 5 years. So you can't hold that license for 25 years anymore. You hold it for just 5 years. If you're prospecting, as if you're looking, you're searching for crude oil, you have to license for just 5 years, no more 25 years. And that's the initial duration if you are doing onshore and shallow water oil prospecting. That's if you're looking for oil on the ground and in the country's shallow waters. If you're doing something like the Chad or you're doing the Niger, Benue area or plateau area looking for oil, those are shallow waters and all that. If you want to hold license, no more 25 years, 5 years is what the NNPC wants. Number one. Number two, reduce the initial duration of deep water and frontier acreages licensing from 30 years to just 10 years. That is if you are going on the high seas and you want a prospecting license, you get it for the first 10 years and no longer holding that license for 30 years. Number three, 20 years is what the NNPC is now proposing as a production lease for onshore and shallow fields as well as deep offshore and frontier bases. So your production license, which will now be separated from your prospecting license, will be for 20 years production lease only. This period is renewable for a period not exceeding 20 years. And we have some good news. We're talking about Kama and how that will help the small and medium enterprises in Nigeria, which was the amendments passed on Tuesday by the Nigerian Senate. Now let's talk about the pensions industry. And for those who've been holding on for years, looking for where their pensions were, now you have some good news. The Pension Transition Directorate, called the PTAD, says 16 billion naira in cash and non-cash legacy pension funds have been recovered from board of trustees of agencies and insurance underwriters. They've been sitting on 16 billion naira over the years, and the pensioners not getting paid. So the PTAD says 6.9 billion naira is the cash component that's been lodged with the central bank, and that money is sitting down there while pensioners don't get their monies. And another 9.1 billion, which is the balance of that, the value of assets, office buildings and residential, whatever, that now they're asking the Fasholas Ministry of Works and Housing to do valuation and get back to the PTAD. And meantime, 11 billion naira is still outstanding in legacy pension assets with insurance firms. That is a lot of money. If you add 11 billion to about 16, you're looking at something close to about 30 billion here in pensions owed folks who worked with maybe Nigerian Airways and other agencies in years past. Meantime, today, the industry regulator, that's PENCOM, issued a public notice asking the public to make comments and their observations on the new draft guidelines and framework that will bring everyone into the pension scheme. Now Nigeria has something new on the table, and it is called the micro pension plan. If you're a one-man business, now you have a new law that makes it possible for you to be part of the contributory pension plan. And if you employ less than 3 people, that is, if you are a roadside mechanic or a vulcanizer, there are 2 of you doing that, you will have to be part of the new pension regime in Nigeria. So now Nigeria government has taken pensions to the man on the street. Just one-man business. If you do one-man business or you hold a barbering salon, you have to do a contributory pension plan, or if you employ less than 3 people. Everyone is now in the basket of the pension regime. That's the new law that is now being put on the street by PENCOM. Let's get back to the budget of 2018 and get a bit of a sense of where we go from here as we begin to digest and dissect these documents today and the weeks ahead until it's signed into law by the executive branch. Let's bring Johnson Chukwu, who is the CEO at Carry Asset Management, into this conversation via Skype. It's good to see you, the CEO at Carry Asset Management. Good morning. It's good to have you on the program.
Good morning, boss. My pleasure.
Yeah, despite being a chartered stockbroker, I'm sure you keep your eyes on the broad economy always and all the time. Give us your first word on this new budget.
Well, to me, I think the budget that was passed by the National Assembly yesterday is a reflection, like the Senate President said, it's a reflection of some level of agreement between the Senate and National Assembly. In terms of appraisal of the budget that was passed, I think it's in tandem with the economic outlook of the country. For instance, the key adjustment that was made in the budget was the price of crude. Today, we're dealing with the crude price of close to $80 per barrel. At the point when the budget was initially cut, the crude was trading about $50 per barrel, and the budget was based on a benchmark of $45 per barrel. With the crude price of, let's even say, an average of $65, $70 per barrel, it is not out of place to have a budget benchmark of $50.5 per barrel. That's what actually led to all the changes we saw in the budget. That's what led to the increase in revenue by $508 billion. So I think the reality on the ground is that we need to fast-track infrastructure development. And good thing is that even if you look at the price of that increment, about 217 billion of that went into physical infrastructure, into capital expenditure budget. And for me, that is where to go. We still have a headroom for savings. After the president was about presenting the budget for fuel subsidy, I believe there still be some headroom for saving about $10 to $15 per barrel, assuming that you call it a price subsidy.
Okay, this looks really good. But again, how do you think this will impact on the markets?
Come again, how do I think it will impact
on the markets? What's in it?
Well, we should see a lot of injection of liquidity in the economy. Once the president hands the budget into law, we should see immediate implementation, because this is a pre-election year. The government should actually be in a hurry to begin to implement the budget. So we should see a lot of liquidity injection into the economy. And if you even look at the borrowing is going to contract further. The original budget had a provision for 2.01 trillion naira borrowing budget deficit. Today, the budget that was passed by the National Assembly has only a deficit of 1.95 trillion. So which means the concerns we've always had that the public sector will be crowding at the private sector if the deficit is high has been moderated. And I think once you have a lot of liquidity coming to the system, that liquidity is for interest in the capital market. We are already expecting that we will see an uptick in activity at the bond market, primary segment of the bond market, because interest rates that come down. If you look at the last auction, trading this auction, 3 to 4 days bids closed at 10.7%. So that will drive low interest rates in the money market, will drive activities in the capital market. And it spurs activities both in the equities market, and it will also spur activities in the primary end of the physical market, particularly corporate bonds.
Justin Chukwu, thank you very much. We'll continue this conversation around the budget. Do have a great day. Justin Chukwu, CEO at Cowrie Asset Management. We'll be right back after the break. You're watching Business Morning.